Hello, and thank you for joining today's webinar, Enhance Employee Productivity and Safeguard Against Mobile Threats with IBM Security QRadar and IBM Mobile First Protect. My name is Kayla Heineman, and I'll be your moderator today. Today we're joined by Kaushik Srinivas and Eric Geller. Kaushik is a product manager for IBM Mobile First Protect, formerly MAS 360. In this role, he's responsible for mobile app security and the QRadar integration with Mobile First Protect. Eric is a senior security architect on the IBM North American Security Infrastructure and Architecture team. He has over 15 years experience designing and administering advanced security controls in some of the largest companies in the world. Eric is a regular speaker at national and regional conferences such as Gartner, RSA, AppWorld, and others. He's a published IBM Red Book contributing author and an IBM thought leader. Now, real quick, just a few housekeeping items before we begin. If you've joined a webinar with us in the past, then you might notice that we have a new look. We are using the On24 webinar platform to enhance your webinar experience. The webinar console is completely customizable, so you can enlarge the slides, speaker bios, and the Q&A box. So we hope you take advantage and play around with your console. The webinar is expected to last about 60 minutes and is in listen-only mode. We will have a Q&A session at the end of the presentation, so if you have a question you'd like answered, please be sure to post it publicly in the Q&A box located on the right-hand side of your screen. Feel free to minimize this box if you'd like. You can access this by clicking the red Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. We are recording today's session, and we'll make the link to the recording and slides available by email. So at this point, I'd like to go ahead and pass it off to Kaushik to kick it off with today's agenda. Kaushik?
Thank you, Kayla. Good morning or good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much for joining today's webinar. I hope you have a very productive 60 minutes of your time today. The agenda for today is I'll start off with a landscape, the mobile landscape as we have it today, and also talk a little bit about the IBM Mobile Security Framework. We'll also have a quick overview of the IBM QRadar platform, and then the IBM Mobile First Protect, formerly MAS 360 platform. After that, we'll also talk about the integration of QRadar with Mobile First Protect, and end it off with a Q&A with a demo of the integration, followed by a summary and Q&A. So to start off, what are the challenges that most enterprises face today? So this is how we like to define it. It's essentially a way by which enterprises want to keep internal as well as external mobile threats on the radar and then take actions as required. So on the left-hand side here, we have the security and productivity piece, which is what the CIOs and CISOs or the IT departments care about. They're really hard-pressed to secure enterprise data and maintain regulatory compliance, but at the same time, you have to make sure that your employees are being more and more productive. Employees, on the other hand, they want to make sure that they have access to all the enterprise resources that they can have access to, irrespective of device or application. This could mean having access to Box on their Android phone or Dropbox on their iOS device, for example, or any other tablet or smartphone. So there's a broad range of devices and applications today in the enterprise, which sometimes end users are bringing in, and these need to interface with your corporate network. But at the same time, you as the CIO or the IT team need to make sure that you have visibility to this and also make sure that you can control and manage this. So this leads us to the challenge, which is the mobile threat. You could have compromised devices, jailbroken or rooted devices in your network, or any of the other devices which have malware in them, introducing threats into your enterprise network. So that's where IBM Security can come in and help you solve these challenges that you have today. Just to give you a sense of the scale of these threats, there are close to 400 new threats being discovered every minute. That's almost more than 6 every second. This is based on a study by McAfee. And on the right-hand side, you can see that most of the top mobile apps are easily hacked, especially on Android. So it's imperative that you actually have a really good security framework in place, as well as a product in place when you're allowing employees to actually use their mobile devices. A couple of quotes here by Gartner and Forrester, some really good analysts in this space. Gartner says, with the growing penetration of mobile devices in the enterprise, security testing and protection of mobile applications and data becomes mandatory. Mobile First Protect can certainly help you here, along with the other products that IBM Security has. We've noticed that when enterprises start off with their journey of mobility, they start off with the concept of delivering email to users, email, calendar, contacts being the usual primary use case. And then they quickly evolve to a lot of other use cases. For example, IBM today has hundreds of apps deployed to all our employees to make our lives more easier. So, and once enterprises start building these apps, they quickly realize that security is really key, because these are applications residing sometimes on BYOD or personal devices, but accessing corporate resources. So that's where we can certainly help you. And the second quote here is by Forrester, which says, enterprise mobility basically brings in new systems of engagement. These new systems help firms empower their customers, partners, and employees with more context-aware applications and smart products. Again, these are mobile devices which have a lot more sensors in them, can be used to build a whole variety of apps which could basically change how people work every day. So you might have heard of the Apple-IBM partnership, which does some of these as well. So again, all these are great productivity tools, but at the same time, companies need to make sure that while they provide access to employees on these new smartphones and tablets, they also have the right security in place. So this is the IBM Mobile Security Framework. Some of you may have seen this before. If not, I'll just walk through this very quickly. So this is almost a progression in how enterprises manage security or should manage security. On the left-hand side is protecting devices. So if you don't have visibility to devices today which are connecting to your network, that's the first thing that you need to do, where you can have an MDM solution, for example, which can help you configure these mobile devices, but also just provide visibility to all the devices which are accessing your corporate network. So, for example, Match 360 in this case can help you configure devices over the air, but also manage security policies and restrictions on these devices as required. And this could mean configuring it for email, calendar, contacts, as I said, but also maybe having more context-specific policies, such as turning off the camera or Bluetooth or Wi-Fi, for example, or also the other sensors which we may have access to as an MDM provider. So that's the first stage, of course. The next step is automatic enforcement of some of these policies. What happens if a user is out of compliance for some reason? There's no way that an IT admin can actually manually go in and block the device every time a user goes out of compliance. So there's a lot of intelligence built behind Match 360, which can allow enterprises to block out these devices or quarantine devices based on user or device security posture. And that leads us to the third point on the left-hand side, which is basically a platform to mitigate all your risks in case of lost or stolen or compromised devices. So that's the primary use case to start off with. So protecting devices, which means getting basic control off the device through core MDM functionality. And once you have that in place, the next stage, of course, in this whole process of embracing mobile is safeguarding applications and data. So enterprises start building applications, or this could even be applications which you procured through the public app stores and want to deploy to your employees. So we provide a platform by which you can distribute and manage these enterprise apps, but also separate out work and personal data so that when an admin tries to delete information, corporate information on the device, they're not really touching any of the personal information. So it's this complete separation between what's personal and what's corporate owned on any smartphone or tablet. This is especially critical when you're looking at BYOD devices where they're not really company owned, but actually personally owned devices which are enabled by the IT team. And then when enterprises start building their own apps, they typically need security for these applications. That's where we can help you with protecting these apps as well as data from the vulnerabilities which could be out there, which could compromise your devices, your data, your network. So once you have security of the apps and data, the next stage is making sure that users and employees are much more productive. This is where we have the secure content and collaboration piece coming in to enable users to edit documents, sync documents across all their devices, as well as share it between other peers and employees to make them more productive. This can, of course, be contained on the device to make sure that the data doesn't leak out of the work persona. So it provides the separation, again, between work data and personal data. So the first three stages are more about data at rest. where we talk about how there are different layers in how you can protect your corporate data, from the device all the way up to the content with, of course, applications and data in between. Once you have this complete control of the data on the device, the next step, of course, is to ensure this data is also secured when it's moving between devices or between, say, a server and a device. And that's the manage access and fraud piece, where we have a ton of other products that we integrate with as well. And of course, Mass360 itself has a ton of capabilities there. The first one is providing secure web and mobile access control through the mobile enterprise gateway that we have. I'll walk through that a little bit more later on. But basically, making sure that employees have secure access wherever they are to the backend network. And we also integrate with other products such as Trust Here or IBM ISAM, which is the Identity and Access Management System, to allow single sign-on and have a unified identity management solution for your enterprises, for your users. So that covers the whole end-user story for enterprise security. But at the same time, we need to have some security intelligence overlaid on top of this, which allows you to secure all your data. And that is where QRadar comes in with the different modules that QRadar provides. It allows you to extend your security information and event management system to the mobile environment, where with the integration that we have today, you can now have feeds coming in from Mass360 as well into QRadar. So you have a single pane of glass view for all your threat vectors or any events which are out there right now. Again, we'll have a demo of this as well to go through it in more detail. The second piece is more about the different features which QRadar provides, which is incorporating log management, anomaly detection, configuration, as well as vulnerability management across all the different platforms that you might have to manage your mobile devices as well as other devices. So to walk through it a little bit more in detail about QRadar and tell you about the value of QRadar in your environment, we have Eric here with us today. So Eric, I'd like to hand it over to you to talk more about QRadar.
Great. Thanks, Kaushik. I really appreciate it. So good afternoon, everybody. My name is Eric Geller. I'm down here in lovely Florida. It's like 83 degrees, and I'm sweating a little bit, so I hope everybody's in a cooler part of the country. That would be good. And we're going to go over just a little bit about QRadar and essentially what this brings to the table. As you can kind of see by the simplicity of this particular slide, I'm a technical guy. I'm not much up on all of the what I would call marketing hoo-ha in the world, but there's some really important information behind these kind of three very, very basic points. And that's first with the automated side of the world. When we're talking about SIEM, that event incident management system, in today's day and age, it's actually 100 times more important that we have one of these systems in place. And I'll get into the reasons for that. So not only is QRadar automated, but it's also enterprise ready. So, in a nutshell, essentially what QRadar is going to do for you is bring together all of your security event, your syslog, your REST API calls, both for systems that are inside your network or on-prem, but also a huge amount of cloud services. We have templates built in to connect to things such as Salesforce and OneDrive and Office 365 and Lotus in the cloud and Oracle and a huge variety of different things. And what that allows you to do essentially is to get automated feeds built literally, and I mean literally within minutes. There's just a few basic configuration steps that I'm going to show you in the demo later on. And with this automated approach, I can also do things such as the ability to go out and automatically determine syslog sources and so forth. Now, all of that information is great, except for the fact that you have to have some intelligence or very, very high-end analytics behind it. And that's the second thing that QRadar really brings to the table. So the first thing it does is it basically creates this centralized and integrated common interface platform for you to get all this information in one place, have it be intelligent, have it be analyzed, and have it be actionable, and then be able to automate essentially the analytics for all of that so you have actionable information at the end of your day when QRadar happens to parse through 5 or 10 million events, depending on what you got feeding into it. So the second side of this is it's completely integrated. So what does that mean, and how does that help you out? So the first thing, and one of the most important things with this integration, is the ability for us to provide you basically pre-made templates for hundreds of different applications or services so that you can just get the config information when you want to connect to log source or compliance sources for Salesforce or any of these other providers, as well as all your internal stuff, such as Oracle or SQL or Exchange or any of these other types of things, so that it really, within minutes, you're able to actually create a connection template so you can import all that security information. It brings all of that stuff together in one pane of glass. Now, that's all well and good, but if you've got 5 million events going on a day in one pane of glass, there's no way for any one or even really a team of people to parse through all of that, and that's where the advanced security analytics come in. The ability to make intelligent connections between where maybe a device is in the world, what time of day it happens to be connecting, and what way it happens to be connecting, what back-end data resources it is trying to connect to. Curator is going to give you all that information. And the last thing is the intelligence of it. So intelligence means that really hardcore analytics side of the world, so that we have filters and we have pre-built alerts and reports built in so that it can ingest and then give you actionable information. But it also does really important things such as deduplication and the coalescing of events, so that if you have a firewall getting pinged with a denial of service attack, you're not going to necessarily, depending on how you set it up, see 5 million different events, one right after another, 3 times a second. QRadar is going to be able to actually handle that, put that down into a single entry and just increment a counter so that you're not overwhelmed by the same thing over and over again. Once again, and kind of lastly on here, is that there's a huge amount of out-of-box filters and reports. This is all through a GUI interface. I'll show you that later on. And it gives you very, very quick ability to take a look at, like your top 5 risk scores, any kind of PCI compliance issues that you've got on, vulnerabilities in any one of your systems, things along those lines. Yeah, I can not only see that, but I can drive down into that and actually see what's going on. So all of these out-of-box security analytics, the filters and the reporting, make this one of the most intelligent systems in the world. And frankly, and I'm sure you do take a look at Gartner, we are in literally the absolute far upper right-hand corner when it comes to SIEMs in the enterprise. So you'll notice in kind of that last one that we had 3 basic main points, but all of the things in regards to all of these extensive data sources, you'll see there on the left-hand side. We're obviously not going to go through all of these, but what QRadar is able to do for us is essentially condense all of that down, provide some data classification. You're able to prioritize the importance of the system, the exploit, or the data based not only on what you think it is, but also, for example, what IBM X-Force, which is an internationally recognized malware and risk management news service or news feed. All of those things provide those analytics so that when you're looking at millions of different events, we can actually triangulate directly into things that you need to take a look at and drop the rest. That's essentially what you're paying for. You're paying for an enterprise-ready system that's been able to give you a common interface and a single pane of glass, and then provide advanced security analytics on that so you don't go insane trying to actually find the 1 or 2 or 12 important things out of the potentially millions of events that QRadar is actually analyzing on a day-to-day basis. Okay? So notice how we kind of went from, we take all of this information, we condense it down, we analyze it, and we give you a set of very actionable tasks or alerts or reports. Now, when we talk about something that's even more holistic, we're talking about the ability to essentially have QRadar be the center point of your entire security infrastructure. So when you take a look at sort of these, all of these different capabilities, obviously these are all product names. AppScan, the ability to actually scan applications for, dynamic and static code analysis. Mobile First Protect or Mass 360, which we'll be talking about in a little bit. security identity manager, privileged identity manager, all these essentially security, identity safeguards that we put in place. Not all of these have to be IBM. Remember, I told you that we've got hundreds of built-in templates that you can take your current what you've already purchased, and essentially automatically integrate that into QRadar using all of these built-in templates. So we go from the ability to analyze things in a very, very direct way to the ability to essentially take your entire security infrastructure and condense that down into that common interface and that common screen so that you can do log management and risk modeling and vulnerability prioritization and incident detection, all of these things together in one place. So when you've got all of these things feeding into QRadar, essentially you're infinitely smarter and more actionable than you were before. Now, one of those pieces, as Kaushik was mentioning before, is IBM Mobile First Protect, which was formerly known as FiberLink Mass 360. This is the whole mobile application management, enterprise mobile management, secure container, device policies, personal policies, URL filtering, a huge variety of different things. So Kaushik, I'm going to turn it back over to you and take us through a little bit about how Mass 360 works or how Mobile First Protect works and what that brings to the table.
Sure. Thanks, Eric. So
Sure.
The audience, we thought right now we saw a quick overview of what QRadar provides and how it actually adds value to what our customers currently have, or if they don't, how they could actually use QRadar to actually get more benefit in terms of visibility and management of their mobile devices, in specific to this webinar, but of course the broader theme of QRadar. So a little bit about Mobile First Protect, formerly known as FiberLink Mass 360. So this is an enterprise mobility management solution which helps companies manage all their smartphones and tablets as well as laptops across all different platforms. If you were to break down the product into a few different modules, this would be it. It's a complete platform for managing all your mobile devices across the entire life cycle of the device as well as applications. On the left-hand side here, you have the advanced management, which is a core MDM or mobile device management piece of Mass 360. With this, you get the ability to look and basically have visibility to all the devices connecting to your network, but also gain control of them to ensure that you can configure them over the air and also add in restrictions as required to these devices. So we also have policies which you can enforce, which make sure that you have these restrictions as well as configurations. But we also have compliance rules, which allows you to take certain actions if a user is out of compliance for any reason. It could mean if a user installs a blacklisted app on the device, you can take a specific action, maybe wipe out the device, or maybe just block the device. Or if a device is jailbroken, for example, you could wipe the device, and all completely automated through the platform through Mobile First Protect. The second piece that we have is a secure productivity suite. This is also known as a trusted workplace, which is essentially an encrypted app on the device, which allows end users to have all their work-related data inside this one single FIPS 140-2 compliant AES 256-bit encrypted container. And this allows users to have access to their email, calendar, contacts, documents, other work-related applications, as well as any documents, as well as a secure browser, which allows end users to access behind the firewall repositories such as your Windows File Share or SharePoint or a host of other repositories, including Box or Google Drive, directly from within this container. And that brings us to the third point, which is secure document sharing, which we just went through. Beyond this access, the Mass 360 also allows users to edit these documents and save them back into the container, but also share it across different users and sync it across their own set of devices. So I could pick up my iPad, start typing a document, save it back to, say, SharePoint, for example, move over to another device, pick it up, and then start viewing it there. So it provides this way to sync documents across all these devices very seamlessly. And for users to access any of these repositories, sometimes they could be behind a firewall, and that is where the mobile enterprise gateway comes in. It allows end users to access behind the firewall resources without a device-level VPN. So this is Mobile First Protect's very own gateway, which acts as a reverse proxy to allow access to these servers and resources. Malware and threat detection is a big component of this product as well, with our integration with Here, which is another IBM security product. And this allows enterprises to block devices if they think that there's some kind of malware on the device and that the device needs to be blocked. So that completes the entire set of features that Mobile First Protect has. If you look at it, it basically covers the entire life cycle of the device. Advanced management allows you to basically commission the device, but also decommission it through selective wipe or complete wipes as required when the device is lost or stolen or the employee quits the company. And then on the productivity side, which is during the life cycle of the device itself, we have things such as Secure Productivity Suite, Mobile Enterprise Gateway, and document sharing, which can enhance employee productivity. And of course, if things go wrong when this device is connected to the network, we also have the threat management piece, which allows you or gives you more visibility to block these devices or take actions as required. So this ties in again with the overall strategy that I walked you through in the initial slides of how IBM plans to tackle or plans to help organizations tackle mobility and make sure that employees are more productive, but at the same time securing corporate data. A little bit more about Mobile First Protect and the different products that we have. With the Secure Productivity Suite that I spoke about, which is also known as the Trusted Workplace, there are four main components to it. The first one is a secure PIM client, which allows users to have access to emails or calendars or contacts. But then there's also a secure browser, which allows users to have access to intranet websites or any other server directly through a browser on the device. Again, this is through our own gateway. It doesn't require a device-level VPN or any other VPN infrastructure on your site. You just have to install it on a Windows-based machine. Typically, we can go through it in more detail later on with some kind of a Windows server, and then that's pretty much it. With the app security and management piece, that provides you an enterprise app store from where you can distribute applications to your employees. They can download it directly from this enterprise app catalog on their device and then start using these applications. And this, of course, could be for enterprise apps, which you might have built yourself or maybe procured from a third-party vendor, or even public apps available on the app stores, which can now be distributed through Mass 360. And the last part is the file sync and share, which also has edit capabilities, where you can now edit these documents, share these across different users, and also sync them across the different devices that you may have as an end user. So this this suite of products is known as the Trusted Workplace, also known as Secure Productivity Suite. It separates work and personal data with anytime access to corporate resources. It allows you to adhere to a lot of different regulations. For example, say if you need to be HIPAA compliant and you want to make sure that users cannot copy-paste information from within the Mass 360 app to outside, that can be turned on. Again, these are policies and controls which you can turn on at an organization level, at a user level, or at a user group level as required. And of course, these groups can be dynamic, which means you can make them more context-aware and maybe turn on copy-paste restrictions only when the user is outside the office, but allow them to copy-paste when they're inside the office. This is an example. So you can play around a lot with these policies based on use case and based on requirements and regulations that you may have in your enterprise. This works across iOS, Android, Windows Phone platforms today and provides a very good native user experience on these mobile apps that we have. And with the content sharing piece, we support a whole host of repositories which users can access through the Mass 360 app. This includes Box, Microsoft, Google Drive, as well as IBM Connections and other collaboration tools and applications. So that's where
Kaushik, I got one thing to add in here. Hey guys, if you are just currently a QRadar customer, I just wanted to make you aware that to set up a cloud-based test platform for Mass 360 would literally take about 4 minutes of your life to do. You can do it straight off of mass360.com. And then based on that, you can then, and I'll go through this in the demo, essentially get that set up to your current QRadar installation. If you're a Mass 360 customer, then it's a little bit more involved, obviously, to set up QRadar. But if you're currently a QRadar customer, you could be testing this integration, literally in a single day. Just wanted to add that in there, Kaushik.
Yep, great point, Eric. I think that brings us up to the next. It's a very good segue to the next section, which is the integration of QRadar and Mobile First Protect. So, do you want to walk us through that?
Yeah, absolutely. So guys, in just a few minutes, when I actually pop it in the demo, I'll actually show you how to create this connection. I've already seen some questions in the Q&A in regards to kind of what do I need and how do I set this up. So I'm going to take you through that. But essentially, kind of as a combination or an add-in to what we were talking about earlier in the QRadar overview, essentially what we're doing is, QRadar can take in or import a huge variety of different data sources. And what Mobile First Protect happens to use is a REST API. So I'll show you exactly what that looks like in just a few minutes. But once you get that REST API, importing into QRadar, then it can give you a variety of different information. I can see this stuff in real time, or I can, set like a 15-minute limit in regards to how often I import the logs. It's whatever really how you want to set it up. And there's one of the most important things about this particular integration, which makes it a little bit different and more beneficial to you, quite frankly, is because of the very fast nature of how mobile operates, right? And the other side of that is when we're talking about mobile operating systems, iOS and Android and so forth, these are consumer-based operating systems. So what that means to you is that I can put security rules down on, for example, an iOS or an Android. I can put what we call compliance rules. I'm not going to get into all that, which basically say, okay, if something happens, then this is going to be my my net result or my action. So let me give you just a real quick example of it. So, let's say that you allow BYOD devices, for example, and you're increasing your the amount of BYOD devices that you're allowing people to bring in. You're reducing the amount of corporate devices, which a huge number of customers are doing right now. Quite frankly, a very large number of customers are actually getting away from corporate-owned devices entirely, and they want to go completely to the BYOD. So some of those features that Kaushik brought up earlier in regards to, secure container and secure email and PIM functionality, secure document editing, things along those lines, fit in obviously very, very well to this idea of BYOD, because we can put a secure container on a device, not touch anything else on the device, and then, provide this, very security-focused, encrypted data store on that device that I have control over, and I don't mess with anything else on the actual mobile device. But with that being said, so let's say, all right, I require PIM functionality or a secure container in order to access your email calendaring and so forth. So I get someone to install Mass 360. It's on their iOS device, for an example. And then whether they do it on purpose or whether it's by a mistake, all of a sudden they remove the MDM profile off the iOS device. Well, there's absolutely nothing I can do as an MDM administrator to stop somebody from doing this. And if you guys have ever done, mobile device management administration, you know that. So, but I can say, okay, I'm going to detect and alert when somebody disenrolls or removes the mobile device management profile. I'm going to be able to see that in QRadar, right? And I can have my first action, for example, be an alert, not necessarily a selective wipe on the device. I can then, for example, communicate with that, to the help desk and let them communicate with the end user, or I can call the end user directly and let them know that, hey, you removed this, and if you do, we're going to wipe all of the corporate data off in the next 59 minutes, right? Those are the type of real-time compliance actions that you can take when you start doing integration such as what we have here. Additionally, you can see unauthorized devices, right? So you can see, for example, mobile devices that may be going through a secure gateway that aren't saying, hey, I've got Mass 360. That's another type of alert that you can set up when we're talking about these things. right? And then obviously really, really important stuff like, I want to be able to automatically alert when something is jailbroken or something is rooted, or if somebody is using, for example, a proxy, an anonymous proxy on the network, or they have an anonymous proxy application installed on their corporate device. These are things that, I definitely might be aware of. Because quite frankly, just as an example, if I've got a corporate device out there, I can't stop somebody necessarily from installing particular applications, but if they install, for example, a Proxify app, which is an anonymous proxy, on their device, I can make that a restricted app. I can throw an alert to that and say, okay, you've got, 120 minutes to remove that application. If you don't, then I'm going to remove the corporate data, things along those lines. So I think you can start to see a lot of use cases here where having that real-time ability to take a look at that, and maybe even not necessarily be the MDM administrator yourself, but be the person who is responsible for taking a look and assessing the quality of that alert and what that priority is. And that's what QRadar brings to the table better than anything else. So when we talk about, how to set this up, and I'll show you guys in just a few minutes, essentially you've got all those devices out there. They report to Mobile First Protect or Mass 360, whether they're in the cloud or whether that Mobile First Protect is on-prem. We've got this integration between Mobile First Protect and QRadar, and then that's going to be able to show you in a dashboard, your alerts, particular reporting, your inventory of your devices, their compliance levels, and so forth. Okay, it gives you just that, once again, that single pane of glass. So just real quick, this is just, and the reason we put these screenshots in here, guys, is because obviously you're going to have access to both this video and I'm pretty sure the PowerPoint slide deck that goes along with this. This is just kind of showing you where those logs show up. And then you can, of course, dive into any one of those particular logs. You can see the magnitude, the priority of it, the severity, the credibility of the alert and things. So there are kind of automated, when you set these up, these are, they put in default numbers, for example, for the severity and the credibility and so forth, but you can prioritize and change those within the QRadar infrastructure to however you want in order to make sure you're alerted in the way that you want. Okay, so we're going to ask a poll question here. So I'm going to kind of keep doing this. So I'm going to say, of the following mobile device categories, what does your organization classify as the most severe? So give it an answer there, because we're all, quite frankly, really interested in your answer. And as you're doing that, and I'm going to bring Kaushik in here in just a second, what I have generally found, quite frankly, even though, yes, there is malware, and yes, it is really important that we secure against that, when I talk to C-level folks, when I talk to administrators, when I talk to a lot of the business owners, essentially what they are very, very concerned with is A, lost and stolen devices, and B, personally owned or BYOD devices. And I'll give you an example on this BYOD or personally owned thing. Now, like I said earlier, they really, a lot of companies are really going directly towards BYOD because they don't want all of those phones and the service and everything else on the corporate bankroll. But there are certainly significant security concerns, and the security concerns are not always just of a malicious nature. I've lost the phone and someone who has malicious intention picks it up. A lot of times these phones or these tablets are sitting around people's houses. I can't tell you how many times my kids have come up to me and said, hey, Dad, can I use your iPhone for X, Y, and Z? And quite frankly, the answer is no, because I don't want them in any way, shape, or form having the ability to see anything or manipulate anything that they shouldn't, right? This is my device. It's got secure information on it, and I want to make sure it stays that way. So, Kaushik, what have you seen, for example, in the customers that you've talked to?
It depends on the customer. It depends on the geography, the vertical, the use case, I would say. But in general, people are definitely concerned about BYOD and lost and stolen devices. First, they want to ensure that, if there is a BYOD device, they know about it and they can secure it. But then, of course, if it's lost and it actually has corporate data on it, they need to secure it. But once you have control of these BYOD devices, then there is a question of what else we need to manage, and that's when you have jailbreak detection, malware, outdated OS versions, etc. I'd be curious to see what the result is in this group.
Yeah, let's check it out. All right, well, it looks like that we're all the smartest people in the room, because look at what we have here. A full 40% lost or stolen devices, personally owned, jailbroken, fairly small, malware-infected devices, outdated operating systems. That's a pretty good mix. That means that we've got a crowd here that really knows what they're talking about. It's good to see. All right, so you guys agree with a lot of the other customers that we talk to. Just one kind of thing about jailbroken or rooted. You know, there isn't a lot of people, quite frankly, that do this in the corporate world, but those that do, generally you want to keep a good eye out. So, you know, when setting up essentially the weight, which I would call it, of a QRadar alert or an alert on jailbroken and rooted, I'd put that sucker pretty high because there is no telling what else is going on that phone when it gets jailbroken or rooted. So thanks, everybody. We really appreciate that. So with that being said, I'm going to share my screen out for a few minutes and show you how to set up one of these log sources and take a look at some of these dashboards. So give me just a second. It takes a minute to share this out, and I will let you know when we're ready. Okay. All right. So there we go. So be just a little small caution. Can you let me know when this comes up for you?
Sure. I see it's buffering right now, so let's give it a few seconds.
Okay. Only so much you can do with a Comcast 50 meg connection to your house, right?
There we go. I see a QRadar screen right now.
Got it. Outstanding. All right, ladies and gentlemen. So if you're familiar with QRadar or you have QRadar, this will look real familiar to you. If you don't, this is a test system that we've got sitting in a virtual world with a bunch of stuff that is feeding into it. So you'll see on the upper right-hand side here, I have the ability to actually show a variety of dashboards. I can create dashboards. I can move them around. I can create different widgets and essentially show exactly what I want in any named dashboard that I choose. This is a vulnerability dashboard that I created. It shows me, as you can see, a wide variety of different information, where I'm doing network scanning, essentially what I'm taking a look at from a total all compliance overview. And then I've created some PCI filters down here. And with that PCI filter, just to give you an example, I have the ability to view these assets that are coming up. And this AppServe 2L box, this is my on-site Mass 360 server, and it's got, it looks like quite a few vulnerabilities. So when I go into this, it pops up a new screen, gives me all of the information for this particular asset, and then as I scroll down in here, it's going to actually give me a list of all the particular vulnerabilities that I'm seeing on this, with their risk score, the day that it was found, the last time that we actually scanned it, the ports they are on, and so forth. So I can do this with basically create these filters for any of these different types of systems, whether they be mobile devices or whether they be servers in my environment. Once again, I can pick and choose anything that I want when I'm in here. Another dashboard that I created is an application overview dashboard. It takes just a second for this to load up with real-time data. And as you can see by the headers in here, I've got outbound traffic by country. This is really important from a mobile perspective because I've got my mobile devices coming in through a security access manager, centralized point, and I want to be able to see if it's normal of where these devices should be, for example, if I have an international company. And I have the ability to take a look at all the different top applications, that I'm using, what services that they're using, and so forth. I can make these bigger or smaller and show all of these. And then I've got internal applications going out to the internet from the internal side. So this is just another one of the type of dashboards. I'm going to show you just one more here, and I've created a risk monitoring dashboard. And this one is sort of small because I want it to be kind of right in my face. And I've got a source flow offense that's coming in from Mass 360. So I can select this, check out the severity, the magnitude, essentially where it's coming from, and then the ability to look at my events based on what kind of priority I give a particular alert coming in. For example, with jailbroken and rooted status, I want to make sure that I have that set at a pretty high priority because I want to jump on that as soon as I see a jailbroken or rooted device in my network. Okay. I'm going to bounce over to Mass 360 real fast. I'm going to make this just a little bit bigger, so you might see just a little bit of buffering. I already answered some questions in the Q&A, some really good questions where people are essentially asking, okay, I've got QRadar, how do I go ahead and set this up? And I'm going to take you guys through that real fast here. So you'll notice this is within the Mass 360 console. If you don't have Mass 360 or you're unfamiliar with the console, don't worry about it. This is, quite frankly, one of the easiest consoles I've ever used, and I've used hundreds of them, over the course of my career. So this one is taking a look at my actual administrators of the system. Now, the reason this becomes important is because remember towards the beginning I told you that there is, instead of a syslog and importing a syslog into QRadar, we are actually making REST API calls from QRadar to the Mass 360 cloud or the Mass 360 server that's on site. Okay, and with that being said, I need to have that web services turned on. So if you guys are current Mass 360 customers and you don't have web services turned on, you want to go ahead and talk to, just go to FiberLink, and the email address is OPS for ops@fiberlink.com, and ask them to turn on web services. Let them know exactly what you want to do. And they're going to come back with, I think, like a 5-line config. And then once you get that 5-line config, I'm going to show you right in QRadar where you're going to set that up. But the administrator username and password to use these web services needs to be set right here in the Mass 360 console, which is why I'm bringing it up. Okay? I'm going to go back to QRadar, and we're going to take a look at the administration side here. And if you notice, if you're a QRadar guy and you notice where I am, so I'm in administration, data sources, and then events. And I'm going to take a look at log sources, otherwise known as a data source. I've got quite a few in here. The errors that you see here are just simply machines that I haven't turned on in a while because this is a test environment. But I have actually 2 different Mass 360 instances, 2 completely different environments feeding into this QRadar system. So let's just take a look at one of them here. So this is my IBM demo zone. It's got about 350 devices in here. And you'll notice as I hover over this, it gives me the status of this particular REST entry. So it says about to run query for the compliance events, and then the last one is finished queries for this interval. This interface is going to tell you immediately exactly what's going on. So once you create the actual connector from Mass 360 to QRadar or vice versa, then you're going to get immediate success or failure on here. Pretty easy to diagnose. So we're going to actually take a look at this, and I'm going to go to add first. So this is how I do it. Once I get web services turned on, and once I get that 5-line set of configurations from FiberLink, what I'm going to do here, and this is the same thing that you're going to do for any data source that you're going to import into QRadar. Notice how I have the log source type. Also remember that I had QRadar sitting in the middle of all those different IBM capabilities on that earlier slide, but it's not, as I mentioned, just IBM. So you'll notice I've got, Amazon CloudTrail and Apache and, Arbor Networks, Barracuda. There's a huge number of them in here, and Terrace. I'm looking for IBM, and then you'll see I have in here automatically IBM FiberLink Mass 360. So I simply select this, and you'll notice that my interface completely changes. right? I go from kind of a standard syslog format to exactly what FiberLink needs in order to create this data source. So what I'm going to be doing here, this is the username and password of that user that I showed you in the Maps 360 console before. That's where I'm going to set this guy up, okay? Now, when you see secret key, app ID, billing ID, platform, and app version, these are things that FiberLink is going to give you, in an email or a zip file or whatever, when you request that web services get turned on. You simply fill this out, right? You can coalesce these events if you so choose. Remember that we talked about that earlier as part of that enterprise-ready aspect of QRadar. And then there's a save. You can't see it right here, but there's a save at the bottom. And then that creates the log source or the data source. Now, when I go in here to log sources, it literally will immediately go out and grab those logs for the first time from that particular Maps 360 instance. And you can see the status right here and start building filters and alerts and actions and things like that. So I hope that's helpful for you. I wanted to kind of take you through, what it looks like in the dashboard, what QRadar looks like when you kind of pop into it, and then most specifically, how to set up this data source for those of you that already have QRadar or Maps 360, or you want to start playing around with this as quick as possible. So I'm going to stop screen sharing here, and we're going to pop back to, there we go, pop back to the presentation manager, and we're at the summary time here. So Kaushik, I'm going to turn it back over to you. I see there's another question on the Q&A, and I'll pop down there and check it out. So I'll come back in at the end, and thanks very much, guys.
Sure. Thanks, Eric. So that was a great demo of the integration that we have with QRadar and Maps 360 today. We'll have more integrations with different IBM products as we go along here. So we'll share more information as well as these integrations come into play. We already have a ton of integrations today with IBM Burst, Connections, Travelers, Same Time, as well as QRadar and Trust here. So those are just some of the few products that we've integrated with Maps 360 today. So to summarize today's webinar, this integration of QRadar with Mobile First Protect gives you continuous visibility into the mobile threats and events which are gathered together and presented to you on the QRadar console. So it's end-to-end risk protection and analysis provided by the IBM Mobile Security Solutions with ongoing mobile event detection using a single pane of glass on QRadar, access to detailed reports on events as well as user activity. You could also drill down to look at more details about the individual events based on the threat, the severity of the threat. So if you'd like to get more information about this, I highly recommend you check out our website and take a look at both Maps 360 as well as QRadar. In terms of getting started, if you would like to start out with Maps 360, you'll essentially have to go to maps360.com and sign up for a free trial. It'll take you about 3 to 5 minutes to set up your environment, which is a full production environment on the Maps 360 cloud, at which point you can enroll as many devices as you want free of cost for a fully functional 30-day trial. So encourage you to try it out and then enroll your devices. And of course, if you already have QRadar, you can try out the integration as well. If you don't have QRadar, that's fine too. Just reach out to us again and we'll help you set up with QRadar as well. Help you get set up with QRadar as well. So again, more details about the integration here. Basically, there's a link here. Of course, this presentation is going to be shared later on where you can click on this link for more details about the integration as well as to, how you can actually get yourself set up. With that, let's have a quick poll here to see how we should reach out to you after this call. Would you like more information? Option 1, yes, please send me more information about QRadar. Option 2, send me more information about Mobile First Protect. Or option C, not at this time. So let us know which one you'd like to get more information on, and we'll reach out to you again after this call. So I'll give you a few seconds to take this poll. In the meanwhile, let's get to the Q&A and answer the questions that have come in here. So I can start off with one which says, does the integration work on both on-prem and cloud of either product? The answer is yes. So this works across both on-prem and cloud. So it doesn't matter which version of the product you have, you can still try out the integration. Lots of great questions here. The other one says, which module and version of QRadar supports Matrix-60 integration? The answer is 7.4 and above. So if you have QRadar 7.4 and above, you can try out Matrix-60 the integration today. And with Matrix-60, since it's a cloud-based platform, you can, if you have Matrix-60, you're pretty much ready to try the integration. If you're an on-prem customer, let us know, and we'll tell you which versions are compatible. The next question is, are other IBM security products a part of this integration as well? Yes. So we have many different integrations with the different IBM security products, as I mentioned. In this case, of course, Trusteer is a part of this, but of course, Matrix-60 itself integrates with a host of other products across IBM Analytics, security, and other product lines as well. Another question, what modules of Matrix-60 should I have to use the integration? All you need is the basic core MDM functionality along with the web services turned on, which customer support team can help you with. And that should enable you to try out this integration. Another question is, how long does it take to set up the integration? The integration is fairly straightforward, as Eric showed during the demo today. With Matrix-60, it's just a flip of a switch for the web services. And if you have QRadar set up already, it's just another data source which can now be fed into QRadar to allow you to make sure that you have the single pane of glass view across all your devices. And the last question here that I have in chat is, can Matrix-60 take automatic actions on devices that are out of compliance? So yes, actions can be taken to the Matrix-60 console for any out of compliance events, but also you can set these up in advance. So say, for example, the device is jailbroken or rooted, the product can take care of these actions by itself automatically when it detects there's something wrong with your environment or something wrong with the device or a user. So that brings us to the end of the questions here. Well, there's one more that just came in. It says, can you please show the slide with the link to know more? We'll be sending this over to you later on as well, but if not, we just have the slide up here. But the presentation will be shared, so if you want to take a look at more details later on, please feel free to do so. With that, we're almost running out of time. Turn it back to you, Kayla. Thanks, everybody.
Excellent. Well, thanks, Kaushik and Eric, for a great presentation, and thank you, everyone, for joining today. Just a reminder that we will be sending out an email that will provide you access to the recording and slides for today's event. That way you can review anything you missed or share it with others. So on behalf of our presenters and the rest of us here at IBM, we hope you enjoyed today's presentation and have a productive and secure rest of your day. Thanks again.